Hey, Namaste Galactic family. Welcome back to my channel, Indigo Angel. Come on into this dimension, guys. We have so much to talk about today. A lot to dive into. And thank you all for being here. Thank you, Arizona Raven, for being my amazing moderator in the chat. I really appreciate you and all of your loving positivity in the chat. Hi, White Swan. Hi, Sunrise Monk as well. Nice to see you guys here. So yeah, come on into this dimension. We have so much to dive in and talk about today. And actually, let me just do a sound check as well. So if you guys can put like a 5x5 up in the chat, just so I know that my sound is good. Just do a sound check as well. So if you guys can. Thank you. Thank you for the 5x5. So much appreciated. I just wanted to make sure my sound was good because sometimes it gets a little crazy. So I just want to make sure everyone could hear me okay. Thank you so much. Come on in. Come on into the room. Hey, Jenny, Alicia. Hey, Veronica. Hey, Andrew Bean. Yeah, so be sure to comment on this video today. Be sure to share this video today. Put a big like on this video today, especially if you guys have been enjoying the content on my channel. Because today I have some advanced grid intel update for you guys. We are really going to dive into it, and we are going to expand into the topics of the Atlantean timeline grid templates and the core grid bodies of the Atlantean timeline. So yes, a lot of Atlantean activations are coming up right now. We have some interesting opposition going on. We have a full moon right now in Taurus, and we have a lot of planetary positions in Scorpio. So we have this opposition between the sun and the moon. Our full moon is in the Aldebaran system. So the royal star, the Archangel Michael royal star. And we have our sun, our Mercury, and our Venus in Antares. So these are both royal stars that are representing archetypes, archangels, archons, everything with the arc energy, the watcher energy. So it's really kind of creating some interesting opposition in terms of what's kind of coming up in terms of our collective reality fields right now for us to expand more into the activations that are coming up. Right now, we have a lot of activations around the Atlantean timeline. More is being revealed here. More of the veil is thinning, and more darkness is coming to light within this. And what we really have to work through as a collective to transmute any of this and all of this shared Atlantean karmic residue. So this is some yucky, thick stuff that's coming up for us to get to see, to get to work through. So if you're not really familiar on the videos that I've done around grid templating or core Earth grid templating, you will want to go back and watch some of the videos I've done on the Atlantis grid templating and my most recent cosmic grid updates, where I've gotten into the discussions over the Lemurian core Earth grid templating, where I've talked about all of the different levels and layers of the light matrices within this. So this is essentially about timeline grid templating, which means it's about the living light grid matrices according to timelines. Okay, so I'm going to actually leave a bunch of recommendations to videos where I've covered this topic, and also a bunch of writing that I've done on my website as well. And I'll leave it in the description after I get done with the live today. So that way you can go read the work, go read the information, go watch the videos, because this kind of is a progression or a building up of understanding within grid work consciousness, within grid work intel. And so if you're new to my channel, you'll definitely want to go back and watch the videos and read the writing, so that way you can keep up with the information, learn more of the terminology. So I will leave the recommended watches down in the description. And so, yeah, because this is going to be more of a complex video today. So you may need to get more background information if you don't already have it. But essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and share and play this video for you guys. So I will go ahead and do that. So I hope that this plays okay. So this is the black Tesseract cube Atlantis core grid template core of Saturn. These are the 3 rings, or the emanations of the mental bodies: Nibiru, Marduk, and Maldek. And these are the artificial magnetic beams that are essentially key coded to specific locations. So yes. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I might replay it here in a minute or so. We'll have to see. But I might just actually pull up the pictures so I can actually talk about the details of this. So let's do that actually. Okay. So, and I just want to give a shout out to Bart Shaplicki. I call him C Zaplicki on the graphic design. Essentially, he does all of my graphic design for me, so he's always doing an amazing job. Just wanted to give him a shout out, and I will also leave his links in the description, so that way you can find him, find his work, and you can find him at sunrisemonk.com. But essentially, what you're seeing here, this is an inner earth structural core-based architecture to the Atlantean timeline. Okay, so what you see in this picture and what you saw in the video, this is currently representing visible, documentable, 3D, 4D inception at about the Atlantean Seeding 1. So at the time of the Lemurian Holocaust, okay, the great inception, Cataclysm timeline 1. So this is set at about 70,000 years ago in Earth's Hall of Records, and was the original marker for dismantling and fragmentation, separating and fracturing the Lemurian and Atlantean grids. This is essentially when this core grid templating became most active in the Earth's manifestation fields. Okay, so, but the original embodiment of this core base Saturnian internal inner Earth architecture is essentially at the time of planetary creation history. So this is defining a holographic architecture inside of the Earth, okay, that's containing the core base templating to the Atlantean timeline. Okay, so this came at the time of Earth, Tara, and Tiamats and Maldek creation history, which we're going to get into more in this update today, as it's all really an imperative part of the understanding of this inner Earth holographic technology. Okay, and this technology is comprising the main core architecture for Atlantean Timeline Events to run for the first time on Earth. So this was the Lemurian Holocaust, the Nephilim, the forced breeder programs, the Luciferian takeovers, the first invasions, and the fall of man, and the installation of planetary crucifixion and planetary hijacking invader technology. And everybody's saying, thank you, Bart, in the chat. So yes, give him a shout out because he does amazing, amazing work all the time. Super impressed with it. So essentially, this is an inner Earth, multi-transdimensional, rotating, living, holographic, condensed geomagnetic geometry with core permeability power. So this has power to generate beast machine consciousness, power to generate AI consciousness, okay? Black and red wave spiral beams, singularity vortexes, power to distort, hijack, and host the planetary living spiritual Merkaba field and pillar and gate systems interlaced as a harvesting station, running most dominantly in the planetary vertical ascension markers, spanning width within the Archangel Michael ley line across the 33rd parallel. So this is considered the Saturn black cube Tesseract core, which is surrounded by the three rings of the mental bodies comprised of the material matter bodies of Nibiru, Nibiru's moons, Marduk, Maldek planetary bodies. So how are these planetary bodies surrounding this cube? Okay, so that is really, again, contingent upon Earth's history, which is upon impact. Nibiru and Marduk are one and the same, Maldek and Tiamat being one and the same, just representing different time dimensional fields. So these mental bodies around the cube, these are surrounding material planes of the black cube, but they are planetary systems that which seeded the mental bodies for the Atlantean timeline, creating the core grid mind structures, architecture in which Atlantis operates and runs its manifestation fields for reality. So this is all really important right now. This is all coming up right now because, again, the veil is going to continue to thin as we get much closer to the alignment of the metagalactic core. We are already aligned to the heart of Antares, okay, our cosmic universal military advisor, so to speak. And it's revealing more that goes on in the shadow. See, there's actually so much light and photonic light and photonic energy that's in the Earth's magnetic field at the moment that these things are becoming actually visible, right? The original angelic spiritual bodies of the human race was descended from the original tribe and timelines of Lemuria from particular celestial groups that were the original seeders, okay? What that means is that all of Atlantic spiritual knowledge was that of the Lemurians. Okay, so this wisdom, this great earthly Merkaba spiritual wisdom is encoded in the 13 crystal skulls, and it is protected by inherited Mayan mother descendants, Seraphim bloodlines. And Atlantis was seeded ultimately later by the galactic races and brotherhood bloodlines of Sirius and Orion. Those are the two most potent main galactic seeder races of the Atlantean timelines. Okay, so the main seeder races, particularly in Atlantean Cataclysm Timeline 2, were the Syrian Melchizedek priest. Okay, so there are other galactic lines that seeded Atlantis, such as the Lyrans, but they also were very potent in the timelines of the Hyperborean races and also the Lemurian timelines as well. So they weren't just only Atlantis, but Sirius and Orion came in at the time of Atlantis. Okay, they were coalitioned at that time, essentially. Hydrons were major seed races for the Lemurian time, essentially. But this was the original inception of the Galactic Federation, even. Okay, so this came in at Atlantis. So these were formed through a lot of the Tothian groups and the Tothian descendants. The true Atlantean seedings, okay, were completely built upon an invading force by the second cataclysm. Okay, so everything came in through this invasion. The invading force was essentially anti-organic human. Okay, so it's anti-life, it's artificial life, essentially was that invading force. So when we had this invading force come in, okay, these core grid templating to the Atlantean time were built upon the bodies of Nibiru, Marduk, Maldek. Maldek being primarily responsible for bringing forth the bulk of the reptilians, bloodlines, the hybridized forms of Dracos and Anunnaki, the Belial Orion groups, okay, just basically brutal narcissism, invader and refugee races, genetic modification, and hybridization through cruelty, force, genocide, and Holocaust. Essentially savagery, cannibalism, and SRA, satanic ritual abuse. Okay, so basically all satanic and Luciferian and anti-life worship, all enslavement came in during these timelines. This was kind of the original inception to the fear matrix that was born in this time. And I kind of talked about that in the last video that I did. Essentially talking about when the origination of the fear matrices came to be. At this time, there was installation of matrices of frequency fences as well that were basically born at this time. So the development of the beast machines and the beast mechanics, which were particle accelerators, which were an Egyptian Sumerian technology. And what we see now, which is the sky heaters. Okay, all of these things are designed to implement the frequency fences. Technologies to create and maintain frequency fences were born at this time. Crystal technology abuse was born at this time. Okay, and it's only ever evolved into much higher level forms, such as liquid crystal technology, silicon technologies that they're using that's being used to create the metaverse and only enhance artificial intelligence. So, and I've discussed a lot of these topics in a lot of my previous videos. So if you want to go back and especially watch my last update, I was really going into the SRA, satanic ritual abuse, highlighting examples of this in my last update. So I would highly, take a peek at that just so you can see kind of what is going on currently in terms of just examples of how it's being highlighted in the mainstream. There was SRA that was abused during the inauguration of King Charles through the 2022 Commonwealth Olympic Games. And it's infiltrating on all levels of human mind control. MK super duper ultra SRA propaganda. Okay, and this extends into the fashion realm even as well. This was something that I've been looking at a lot actually. I'll just play this and turn the volume off. But essentially, this is kind of where things are going right now. This is the Balenciaga fashion show. This was 4 months ago. Okay, and this is where they are just essentially, normalizing the new cyborg drone clone races. Okay, it's just, this is fast-paced invader technology. This is being streamlined through our celebrity culture, which celebrity culture is technically low-level Illuminati, sorcerer, archon, lower archon elites. Okay, and kind of as I said when I came into this update, when I said, we're in this opposition to Antares and Aldebaran, it's where archon deception right now is really coming up to the surface. Okay, so being able to see this and how this shows up in the world. Okay, so if you're one who thinks that this stuff is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, just watch what they're doing. High fashion usually tells you, exactly what the Illuminati's agenda is. They're pushing the subliminal programming in all ways into this anti-organic human agenda. I even went and watched the most recent Balenciaga fashion show, which was 1 month ago. And this is really it was done in like a post-apocalyptic world, really kind of highlighting the agenda of, where they see that going, essentially. Actually, it was this one here, the Balenciaga Summer 23 collection. This one, you can see here, very dark. I mean, almost animalistic in the expression and what they're trying to show here. Very driven in this, dark, muddy climate environment, essentially still propagating, the agendas of how they see the future world and what they want that to look like. But essentially, going back to our black cube tesseract. Now, I know that there are more of these in the earth. There are more designs of these. So this is not the only holographic core architecture of the Atlantean timeline. But it's essentially, I think it's one of the most important, one of the most powerful, one of the most dominant of the timeline expression from Atlantis to the Aryan timeline. So, this is it's not like any of this has dissipated out of the Earth's holographic geometric architecture. This is still very much active. This is still very much powering our perceptions of universal time, our perceptions of interplanetary and stellar connections to the Saturn moon matrix as well, which is something I'm not going to cover in too much detail in this update today, but probably in the next one that I do, I'll cover more about that. But essentially, a black cube tesseract. So the tesseract, and you can't see it too much in this picture. So the Tesseract is actually around it. This is actually a cube within a cube. The Tesseract is rotating around that smaller cube. It's essentially a cube within a cube that's in a constant state of motion. It's in an infinite loop of time. It is essentially a time prism prison system. And it's really a shared subconscious and unconscious reality time warp in the first and the third dimensions. So, and that's what this Nibiru, Marduk, and Maldek represent here. So the first dimension is the ring body that belongs to Nibiru. The second dimension is the ring body that belongs to Marduk. And the third dimensional ring body belongs to Maldek. So it's a representation of a cube in the fourth dimension, essentially. The small cube grows in size to become the large cube, and the large cube descends to become the small cube. And they are essentially replacing each other in a constant state of motion. It's actually called a hypercube. It's a cube in motion. So if you want to get a better understanding of this, okay, there's two movies that you would want to watch that would exemplify the psychological component of this. And they're really, really, really good. One is the movie Interstellar with Matthew McConaughey. Okay. And then one is the Hypercube. It's a 2003 sci-fi thriller. And then there's also Hypercube 2. So I watched Hypercube 2 last night, and it was actually made very well, in my opinion, for an early 2000 movie. But essentially, it gives you all of the psychological distortion, okay, that is comprised within the Hypercube experience. Okay, and it's a very interesting perception of what the 3D mind mentality body and its level of its totality is actually functioning at a level of the collective body. So it's a hyperlink portal from all singularity AI vortexes and gateways on the earth, made from artificial mind constructs. So this is how it can keep the Atlantean timeline field in a replaying cycle as it continues to obtain current planetary control. Some of you may feel like we are in a constant loop cycle of replaying out Atlantis. Well, if the Atlantean timeline mental body construct is in a hypercube, that would make sense, right? It's controlling around the framework of the original terraformed Tiamat core-based structure. So this hypercube, when it breaks down into its 9 squares, it comes down to a base number of 15. Each one of those breaks down to 6. And so the cube itself it's numerologically by the dimensions of 6. Okay, this actually fits into the core, easily coincides and slips into the core grid structuring of the Lemurian time, which is by 6 as well. It's by a honeycomb hexagonal structure. Okay, so this is how it can, I guess, invade into the original core grid templating and not be seen as it is seen as one and the same, right? So that's kind of just something that's really, really interesting about it, is how this could technically be the perceived Metatronic invasion on the Christic spiral and on the actual flower of life, hijacking the organic flow of the Earth's spiritual stellar bodies. Okay. So this would kind of be the corruption in that inverted flower of life. it also has these magnetic beams here. So you can see these magnetic beams that are generating to locations, artificial and man-made stargates on the Earth as well. So one thing that I've seen in some of my remote views that I've done just on the Kaaba in Saudi Arabia, I think I might have put one out about that. If I did, I will put it in the description. I can't remember. I think it might have been just something I was doing in a group activity. But essentially, we've seen inverted funnels that were going from the Kaaba. Oh, I remember. It was when I remote viewed the Rishat structure, the Eye of Sahara in Mauritania. Okay, so we were seeing connections from the Rishat structure, okay, in West Africa to Saudi Arabia, the Kaaba, the actual cube, okay, the 3D physical manifestation of the cube here on Earth, which is worshipped. Okay, we were seeing inverted funnel structures that were going down into parallel looking glass technology that connected into greater functions of beast machine mechanics and beast machine inner Earth installed machinery that was essentially impaling the Earth rod and core. Okay, so to me, this is really what I was seeing at this time. Now I'm just kind of at a place that I can put it in something to share with you guys. But really what this is this is a massive humanitarian harvesting station. Okay, this is the human farming cube. This is generating and existing from things like SRA, unresolved coral world wounding, timeline trigger and cataclysmic events like major world wars. Okay, so all of the degraded areas of the land that have had core trigger events happen, the trauma bodies are stored into the land, the cellular pockets of the land mass that's generating to this core structure. It's generating from the hijacked monetary and banking institutions, nuclear power disaster sites, the sky heaters, pole modification, firmament and stratosphere hijacking, traumas, death, cultural worshiping. This basically acts to siphon the life force from our universal time matrix and routes energy back to the black hole systems through the 666 wormhole systems. Okay, and there's several of these 666 wormhole systems. And essentially, it's routing it back to so those wormhole systems, and I think there's actually a development in the potency of those wormhole systems. So like if they were on a classification of degrees of how much they would be siphoning life force energy from this universal time matrix, I think there's a hierarchical tier of them as well, considering that some of them have been installed by particular race lines and lineages like Tothian groups. Okay, so essentially it's installed back to Saturn. At the end of the day, it links back to Saturn. Okay, so it's like the Atlantean core grid is a replica of the Saturn core energy. And this links into the black sun consciousness. This links into the black suns of Belial consciousness. This links into the black star called Abaddon. So there's actually a black star called Abaddon, which is known as the destroyer. Okay, which this ultimately connects into the old dark one. So these are portal structures from the Atlantean time that are going into the shadow realms, right? Going into the WISA systems, going into the black hole systems on Earth. Now, according to the Earth's locations, okay, it's going into various sites on the Earth. It's hijacking the Archangel Michael ley line. That's why we had that play on Archangel Archon deceptions. Okay, it's going and hijacking what would be a natural organic dragon ley line in the Earth. But all of these sites that are at these high dragon nodal points are hijacked sites, okay, because they want to put their the lines and the lineages that are functioning from the SRA host core of this templating are, hijacking the organic resources. Okay, so places like the Temple Mount, the Temple of Apollyon, the Temple of Janus, okay, in Rome, which the Temple of Janus was used for Saturn worship. Okay, the double-faced man temple. This is the Saturnian temple for Saturn worship. The Vatican is also considered the city of Saturn. Okay, it's also connecting into places like CERN. Again, the Kaaba in Saudi Arabia, the physical manifestation of the cube in the physical on Earth. Like I said, where the exterior of this black cube is worshipped in the 3D and charged with a meteorite extraterrestrial matter. So they're pulling in extraterrestrial resources to charge it. So it's also connecting into Abadan, Iran, Iraq, other Middle Eastern stargates, Babylon, Sumeria, Mesopotamia, Saqqara. And we're talking about the 8th sphere. Okay, Saqqara is connecting us into the 8th sphere. If you want to know where the portal access points are in the Earth, they are through Saqqara, in time fields and wormholes in Saqqara, through Baal worship. Okay. Also Orion, Nibiru, and Vader stargates as well, which is in the Gulf of Aden. And I've done some videos on that as well. And I can leave the links in the description about those if you guys want to check them out. Of course, if you haven't heard about this stargate, you definitely want to check into it. Babylon would be a big one, definitely. But I think everything really, honestly, along the Archangel Michael ley line, all of those locations are going to be probably the biggest currently in terms of the Aryan timeline and going into the 6th root race. This also connects into, again, the Saturn moon matrix, the obelisk and the phalanx networks. Okay, so this is that solidifying that dominant patriarchy force, the medical, legal, law, education, and financial systems. This is also going into the connected to the impaling of the caduceus implant, which I do feel is the largest impaling collective implant globally that we all share. Coming through Tothian bloodlines and implants, Draco implants, which I'm going to get into, Baphomet realm energies, the monarchy. So the monarchy is very connected to Saturn. I have some pictures here. So this is the, I believe this is the, Balmoral is the royal family castle in Scotland where the queen just died. And this symbolism here at the center of this is actually the sigil to Saturn. So this is the sigil to Saturn. So all of this is interconnected. All is connected here to this Saturnian worship. Saturnian worship is a blood ritual cult, essentially. And so that's why this black cube is so powerful. It's embedded through covenants, through blood covenants, okay, that go up the genetic line. They're kind of like seals on bloodlines, essentially. And this all ties into, again, the wormhole networks, harvesting sites. It ties into designated zones for human soul harvesting, like Trinity Gate sites. and also popular destination and vacation zones as well. I had a vision actually last night as I was getting ready to come and talk about this update with you guys. Yeah, it is Masonic. And Masonry is also at the core of Saturn worship as well. But I had this vision last night that many of the new satanic ritual abuse sites were archontic deception tactics that were being used the most for soul harvesting. These were at coastal mega city points, okay, all over the world, coastal mega city points. You know, Miami, okay, Manhattan, San Diego, Table Mountain in Africa, and also high vacation destination zones. Okay, so like, you know, down in Mexico, Cancun, places where there's like high traffic party zone areas. These are zones where consciousness becomes incapacitated and souls can essentially be leveraged out of their bodies and then hosted for possession. And so much is going on here with that. This is where the bulk of the hijacking is actually really playing out, honestly. And this is where most souls participate, you know, in the unrelenting and unknowing demonic activities. So this is where they're feeding the loosh of the black cube. This is where it's generating its power. And I was being shown that it's actually where the land meets the sea. So the conflicting gateway is between three elemental bodies. It's between where earth meets water and water meets air, that there's some sort of confliction here, where humans are called and summoned to walk into these gateways. And it's where dark spirits are summoned and released. And then a loophole exists in these locations. And many of those released spirits exist simply just in the atmosphere, simply just in the environment, simply in the shadows of the living bodies between the architecture of the geometry encoding that's running in the landmass. Okay, because for one, there is no strength of the magnetic field in these locations. It's all been saturated by these artificial magnetic beams that are killing the health of the magnetic field. Okay, so no organic spirits are actually getting through. It's all generated according to Tesseract consciousness, essentially. And so these are places, right? Like in these coastal mega cities and these vacation destination zones, cruise ships, I was even seeing. This is where we have a lot of appearance of actual physical black cubes. So when you see people posting pictures and videos of actually seeing the black cube appearing in physical form, like in the sky, these floating black cubes, this is how and why and where this is coming from, essentially. So the sixth root race is the transition from the Aryan timeline. So we're actually technically in the development of the sixth subrace into full transition into the sixth root race. So going from the Aryan timelines into the next phase of that root race. So this is a templating inside of the earth. It's an alien construct. It's impaling distortion compressions into the planetary core magnetic field and rod of the planet. So we were looking at some of David Icke's work, and he talks about the cube. The cube actually has the ability that can hack light codes and alter them. Okay, so this is where we talk about maybe some of the dangers of channeling, you know, beings, extraterrestrials, you know, archetypes, whatever it is, deities, God, you know, whatever is channeling, you know, just in general, right? During these times, especially where we have heightened levels of connection to these architectures in the earth, where these become more revealed, where more of the things that are in the dark start coming more to light, there can definitely be a lot more infiltration, even in the hacking of the light codes and the ability that the Tesseract has to alter them. So, and like I was saying before, this is also the basis for secret operations of Area 49. Okay, so if anyone watching knows what Area 49 is, you can go ahead and put that up in the chat for everyone. Just be sure to maybe do some symbols in between the letters. So that way others can know what Area 49 is, if anybody knows. But essentially, it's a cover-up location for the one that's in Gakona, Alaska. So the one that's in Gakona, Alaska is a Decepticon location. Yeah, we'll talk about some protection stuff here at the end of this video. We're definitely going to get into how we can protect ourselves and also work with understanding more of this energy, understanding more of how to integrate with knowing all of this, right? Because this is so extreme with what this all means for humanity. But essentially, I was talking about the HAARP. Okay, Area 49 is HAARP. Okay, so it comes up because there are actually a lot of multiple locations within the realms of the Black Cube when it comes to this, because that technology is very connected to this architecture. This is what's really creating the frequency fences and applying massive amounts of black cubes in areas to actually enhance the technologies of Area 49. This is honestly one of the reasons why I'm referring to HAARP, the sky heaters. Okay, sky heater technology. But this is one of the reasons why I personally got out of Colorado, because it was really plagued with sky heaters and black cubes really over the state itself. And essentially, it's just, you know, creating a really strong and powerful frequency fence in that state. Yes, White Swan got it right. Perfect. Good job. Thank you. Yes. Yes, this is what's creating the frequency fences. This is all coming from the Black Cube realms. Okay, this is all from Saturnian architecture here that's propagated up from the Atlantean timelines. Okay, this is all the karmic residue and the development of this technology. Now let's get into how this was installed. So this was installed at the time of planetary creation. Okay, with the rings of Saturn. Okay, so to think that this is a living architecture within the black magic grids of the inner Earth's bodies, okay, pertaining to the first, second, and third dimensional fields. Okay, this came from the planetary creation from the rings of Saturn. This was a part of Earth's creation history, which was something that I wanted to get into. Okay, this is through projectile resources with the rings. Resources such as water and earth material. Okay, matter, extraterrestrial matter and material, and ultra-terrestrial material. So due to the gravitational pull and power of Saturn, it actually forms the Earth's magnetic core grid. So this Now, in the Earth, it's not going to look this perfect, right? It's probably not this, designed and nicely done inside of the Earth, but it's forming an intelligence architecture, essentially. And due to the gravitational pull and power of Saturn, it actually forms the Earth's magnetic core grid template under its influence. So this might even be fluctuating, right? We're not really hosting this parasitic architecture. We're only hosting it during times of Saturnian alignments, or we're hosting it all the time, but it fluctuates between visibility as the veil thins and thickens, so to speak. But the gravitational power of Saturn would have the ability to form Earth's magnetic core grid template under its influence, because Saturn has the power of 16 Earths. I'll just go ahead and change this to the Ring Makers of Saturn. So if anybody has read this book, I highly recommend the read. I'm just seeing if there's anything here that shows his diagram that he has the Earths. So let's see. Well, within this Earth body, okay, there is 10 Earths within the main body of Saturn. And then within the rings, okay, there is 6 Earths. So 16 total within Saturn's mass. But in the total mass of Saturn, there are 6,000 Earths. Okay, so the gravitational pull from Saturn is so mighty, it's so great, that when it pairs with Jupiter, when it actually comes around to the Earth's alignment, it can actually pull planes out of the sky. I dived into this with John Shaughnessy, actually, a show that I did with John Shaughnessy. So maybe I'll go and add that video in the description when I get off as well. But we talked about how powerful the magnetic pull is from these planets, that it can actually snatch things out of our atmosphere. Okay, so this is very, very, very strong. You could see how the presence and the power of Saturn could transform the magnetic core of Earth. What's more interesting about it is the outer rings. I don't know if you guys can see this, but let's see if I can get a better picture. Well, in the book, he highlights the names of these rings. Okay, and essentially the outer rings are called Anki rings. So he talks about Anki being the ruler of Saturn's rings, essentially. But through planetary creation, what happened is there's a high level of magnetic permeability and the influence of Saturn at the atomic cosmic matter, and it accumulates inside the Earth through planetary poles, through implosion into the Earth from impact, from meteorite impact, through projectile things from Saturn's rings. And it was a part of the creation wars from Tiamat, from Maldek, from Marduk, from Nibiru. All of the material of all resources, including water, before the implosion of Tiamat, collected in Saturn's rings in this universal system. So that's something we might not want to really have to look at, is that the water body of Earth may have came from Saturn's rings. Okay, that would really contribute to the consciousness here on this Earth, right? The development of the mental architecture and holographic geometry that upholds timeline fields on this Earth. This is how this could all have come to be for the Atlantean timeline. So therefore, it just means that Saturn's structure, Saturn's consciousness is alive within Earth's holographic architecture. Earth has been built layer, by level, by cycle, and it's installed Saturn's influence within the grid body and rooted and manifest itself as the black sun. The problem is that Saturn is the most dense and problematic out of all planetary consciousness in our entire solar system. And what happened was Saturn actually became, I'll go back to my picture. Saturn actually became the new Nibiru within this solar system after the implosion of Tiamat and Nibiru. Okay, so Saturn became the outpost for Nibiru. Saturn became the outpost for the reptilians. Okay, Saturn is the outpost for the Orion groups, Nibiru, Royalty, Anunnaki groups, and Draco groups. Okay, if you get into the Rings of Saturn, the book that I just showed you, this is a peer-reviewed scientist that's just simply studying pictures of Saturn's rings, and he's found clear evidence that there are machines, there are ships that are going in and out of the rings. Okay, there is some sort of galactic federation that is operating out of Saturn. Okay. The rings of Saturn became ruled by Enki after the tablet of destiny was stolen from the moon by Enki and Enlil. All of this kind of starts to tie up in some of Sitchin's explanations of things, but I think it's really important to look at that part a little bit, because there is a lot around this tablet of destinies that this was actually stolen from the moon. This is another aspect that ties in the distortions with the moon into Saturn's history, into Sumerian history. So follow up on this research, vet this information out yourself. Read The Ring Makers of Saturn by Norman Bergrun. Okay, he shows the outer Enki rings in his diagrams. And I think this is really important at this time, because something that I've been seeing come up Thanks for catching my live, guys. I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for being here. But essentially, one thing that I've been seeing kind of come up recently is a lot of infiltration right now. So there's stuff going around right now about a recoming of a rebuilding of Enki's army. You guys may have heard about this. It's imposter stuff, you guys. This is imposter stuff. Essentially, there's been a huge push to incept the coming of Enki's army amongst Tothian groups. It's been coming through, these are a lot of mind control recruitment and grooming that's going on in the higher, whatever you want to call it, community. It's really about Saturn, really, ultimately. This goes back to the core of Saturnian worship. And really just not being able to tie up the loose ends with what's happened during the Atlantean time, and still power struggles and control over the mental bodies, okay? And warfare that's playing out in the first, second, and third dimensional fields. So if you hear about this is about the New Age trying to control these narratives. I think it really comes from the fact that, Saturn is the ruler of the 7th solar gate on Earth, what's considered the black sun. But this is at the core of really what the fallen groups and Orion kind of worship. And this is what builds the foundation to the Atlantean core grid body for them to build upon. So they do this recruitment, and then they have the beings that are operating in the eighth sphere basically go and install these agendas. So that way they can continue to control the New Age narratives. And what this is doing is it's creating a lot of distortion that's creating reversal codes to run, essentially, reversal codes to run in the planetary plasma bodies through the dragon, the high dragon nodal points, right? This is how the Vatican can sit there in the first place. It's also running through the inversions of the violet rays, capping consciousness in the crown chakra, installing the crucifixion wounds and maintaining them in the Earth's body. And it's continuing to run those reversals into the shadow bodies of the Earth. This was all, it's the same technology. So this belief that they're rebuilding Enki's army is the same as the crucifixion implants into the Earth. That's basically the same thing that they're trying to do, same technology. And it just continues to pave the foundation for the corruption of the eighth sphere, the eighth dimension, the eighth realm, and all of the cosmic and galactic warfare that is playing out in that field. So I want to just talk to you guys about how we can see the expression of Saturn here on Earth. Okay, so we have this black cube tesseract. We have the manifestation of it in the 3D. You know, we have the Kaaba. We can clearly see how the mental bodies, according to planetary creational history, has built these architectural geometry structures and planes of existence to bring forth the Atlantean timeline from its debut of Cataclysm Timeline 2. And so how can we see this on the Earth now? Okay, and so one way we can see this is by the occupation of judges, okay, and law, the legal system, judges. So judges and law are low-level sorcerers and sorcery from Saturn. This is enforced by the fallen Draco Anunnaki hybrid mixes with Orion lines, the Belial, the Luciferians, the Leviathans, the Satanists, all in which uphold the black cube baton. Okay. Judges, what they do is they sit and they look down on you, and they sit 3 tiers higher than you. So this goes back into everything that was encoded through Masonry, Freemasonry. Okay. And this is how they control society under Saturn's black cube. Is they have the judge that is 3 tiers higher than you, and it represents the first 3 degrees of Masonry. And the judges make people stand up out of respect for them when they say all rise. So you have to actually stand up and give that Saturnian worship ritual, right? Another way you can see it is the priests. Okay, the Pope also look down on their audiences. Okay, the altar is 3 tiers higher. Priest people will stand as well out of respect. Okay, it's respect to Saturnian worship. Judges wear the long black robe. Priests wear the long black robe as well. Also, university indoctrinated graduates, okay, from Saturnian education facilities, okay, they also wear the long black robe, okay, and they also wear the black cube on their head, the mortar board. That's all ritual archon displays to the rulership of the internal black cube. So, and the black cube works as a Saturnian cloak, right? So, they put it on to represent a kingdom on Earth that is being diminished into 3 degrees, that is being diminished into 3 mental bodies: Nibiru, Marduk, and Maldek, all aggressive war planets, all masculine planets that gave way to Tothian, Luciferian, Satanism, Hermes, Baphomet, Baal, Moloch. Okay, these were all of the ones that were the dark sorcerers in Lemuria, these bloodlines. Okay, these were the dark forces that were attached to Nibiru, that maintains the first dimensional consciousness architecture of the Atlantean timeline and there forward. And it's all based upon Black Cube intelligence. So I want to talk about how to overcome Saturn's influence. Because it seems pretty intense, right? It seems like it's so much a part of the consciousness here on Earth, right? So I think it's really important that we recognize its influence on Earth, right? Enter, under, and overstand its influence here, what it's connected to, how it's connected to time, how it's connected to karma, how it's connected to parental influences, okay, how it's connected to governance, law, legality, right? We have to recognize its influence here. We have to see where and how it's infiltrated the Earth. We have to vet the long occult history of Saturn out to become more enlightened about the perception within this, and also to break free of its constructs. Okay, break free of the constructs of third dimensional time. So it helps to be able to see beyond the Gregorian calendar and what our shared time collective reality fields. Okay, in order to break free of Saturn's control, you have to transcend those shared time matrices, the fear matrices. I think someone said to me that the speed of light, so if your consciousness can travel at the speed of light, that transcends the borders of the Black Cube. So we have to do spiritual practices that help us to expand beyond current perceptions in this time matrix. So one thing that I personally did was study the Mayan calendar. That really helped me to see beyond third dimensional time constructs and have more connection to galactic synchronization of time, which is our true inheritance of universal time experience. This is really important. It's really important because of the planetary hosting and hijacking that's happened, they try to actually block this. Okay, that's what the swastika is all about, right? That's what the implantation through the Black Sun agendas during World War II, with the tampering of the swastika. This was to distort our galactic synchronization of time. Another thing we can do to overcome Saturnian influences and forces is to just simply not support Saturnian corporations and organizations. There's a whole ton of them that you could literally just Google Saturnian corporations and you're going to pull up all of the corporations whose logos are affiliated to Saturn. So maybe not support those types of corrupted organizations. For grid workers and gatekeepers, one thing to do is simply to heal the Earth's core world wounding, connect the Lemurian grid templating back into these sites, because that's really what's missing. It's all anti-life worship at these sites that are artificial and man-made stargates that are hijacking the natural dragon ley lines. And I think also to spiritually invest in yourself and protect yourself in global cycles where we know Saturn's influence is going to be the strongest. So because you already know that Saturn's influence is going to test you. Okay, Saturn's influence it's where you are going to have to be the strongest. Okay, so if you're not taking care of yourself, you're definitely not going to do well under Saturn's influence, because it's going to reveal what is in the dark. It's going to reveal what's in the shadow. Also taking care of yourself. If you can have this consciousness at the time of your Saturn return, not a lot of us are lucky to have that, right? Like we fell into our Saturn return and stumbled and fumbled through it. But if you're one that is expecting a Saturn return, which I do believe is around the ages of 27 to 29 years old, this is the time in your life where you want to be the most prepared, because you're going to have some things come your way. And just also be prepared during the phases of Earth where the veil thins the most. Okay, so October through March, which is where we are in the cycle right now. This is where Saturn's influence is most visible, is most penetratable. Yes, Sunrise Monk says, practice living in the now. Spirit lives in the now. That's where Cube has no influence. Yes, protect your thoughts. Don't just think they're all yours. That's true as well, because that Tesseract cube can distort first, second, and third dimensional realities. I think it's important that we work to restore, like I said, the core world wounding from Atlantis, replug it back into the organic system timelines, also extract negative energies from the earth, and transmute things like these black cubes. That's what us star seeds are meant to do. Some of us who've taken, indigo type 3 and indigo type 1 roles, is we're meant to extract negative energies from the earth. We're meant to be polarity integrators and duality transmuters. Okay, so if you can extract and clear the energies. One thing that I've seen in remote views is that there are actual like backed up rings of Saturn in the inner earth ley lines. So like if you're to tune in, and if you, let's say you're cleaning the earth ley lines, you're, running light, you're, healing the earth body, the earth templating, and you see things like rings inside the inner earth spheres, these are rings that are encoded to Saturn. So knowing how to work with that and extract that energy and remove all Saturnian implants out of your body, such as the Draco seals. So I'll just show this with you guys really quick. This is one of my services that I do have, that I offer. And by all means, no pressure to book these services, but this was a seal removal that I designed specifically for Draco hybrid impact for the Aryan timeline, which is majorly Saturnian influence. Okay, so if you are looking to remove seals and implants beyond the J seals and want to get deeper into the work of the destruction energy here on this earth, right? What's really connected to, I guess, Satanism, Luciferianism, right? Like these really dark enmity in the earth, extracting that energy, removing it from your field, removing it from the earth's body, the earth's field. This is all work that is definitely self-experimental at the end of the day. But as we gain these technologies, as we gain these tools, we can essentially extract this energy. And this is what stepping up into guardianship roles is about seeing things that are really causing major planetary distortions and working to release, heal, remove, and upgrade the consciousness of the Earth's body and your body. And it starts with your body because your body is the first lens in which you see what's happening in the planetary field in the first place. So, yes. And with this removal, a lot goes into this. So this is a 1.5-hour interactive DAO seal removal private session where we work on protecting and building of astral field and spiritual armor installation, universal tree of life clearing if needed, entity extraction if needed, 6 tonal line clearing, which is where all of the implants are located according to this energy, rides on the right ring finger as well. So even sometimes it requires removing a Saturnian ring off of the ring finger. Some people actually carry an implant that is like a gold sigil ring with Saturnian symbolism on it, on their right ring finger. This is about 10th DNA strand repair, which is where the Black Sun agenda implants are impaled into the DNA. So it comes with restoring the 10th vagus nerve, repair, full DNA and cellular repair, restoration of your masculine template, because this is what it is hijacking, is the masculine body, which is something we don't talk about a lot. We're constantly talking about feminine repair, healing the feminine, clearing the feminine, but this is something that is directly attacking the masculine and electrical energy in the body. Full DAO seal removal and liquid light cleanse. So, I mean, you can, of course, do this type of work yourself. It doesn't require booking a session, but I do offer it if you feel that it is needed. So these are just ways that we can continue to, you know, I don't want to say work against these energies, but heal these energies, right? Extract these energies. Make this world a better and safer, more beautiful place, and do our part as guardians on this earth. So yeah, guys, I'm just checking the chat one last time. I like to look at it on my phone. So I think that's going to wrap up my cosmic grid update for today. I am going to be working towards doing the next light grid matrix template, which it's not a light grid, it's actually a black grid. But this would be the checkerboard grid and mutations. This would be one of the first founding matrices according to the Atlantean Timeline and template, which everything is playing on the chessboard. So we'll probably go into that in the next video. And also, if you are looking for grid worker knowledge, grid worker certification as a facilitator, I am still offering the grid work facilitator course. So you can sign up for that at my website, indigoangel222.com. Everything is being hosted via webinar live classes. So we still have 6 classes left and it's still available for registration. And it takes you all the way from the intro levels of grid work to the high level, mastery of facilitator work, where you can become a certified grid worker facilitator, which is what we need. We need more people facilitating these types of global healings. So if you feel that your path is mission-based to be doing global grid work, then this would be the perfect course for you. And I would love to have you in the course. So yes, thank you guys so much for watching today. And I love you all so much. I hope you guys have a beautiful everything, and namaste. Take care.